July 16th, 2025, Calvin Castine in downtown Champlain. Looking to the left is Bill Earl Park. We're looking at the Great Chazy River as it flows through Champlain and the village, downtown village right there. And we're looking at a tree that has fallen in the water. We're going to find out if it is included. Hopefully it is in a program that is going to be addressing the emerald ash borer situation and the death of so many ash trees in the North Country. We have made our way into the park, and we have Pete Hager, the director. Is that what your title?
I'm the district manager of the Clinton County Soil and Water Conservation District.
All right. And first thing I asked was about this tree in the river, and it's a willow, so it's not part of this program for ash tree removal.
Correct. The ash tree management grant is specific to ash trees only.
Right. Yeah, but there are a slew of them. I'm not quite sure what a slew entails,
well,
but
there's
there's a slew of them around here.
Quite a number. We've identified, I think, over 400 ash trees that are a potential public hazard along roadsides and trails and public parks.
Okay, so this here, it's in a public park, Bill Earl Park here in the village of Champlain. So that immediately qualifies it, and having it next to the river, if this was on private property next to the river, could it qualify?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No, it has to be a public hazard. It has to be a space open to the public.
Okay, well, the river is.
Correct, but I'm not sure if that would qualify.
Okay, but if it's on private property by a roadside.
Correct. If it's within the right-of-way.
25 feet?
It depends on the town or county road right-of-way width. If it's or within a distance of a public trail, so along the trail here to Rouse's Point, there's some ash trees that would be eligible, even if they're not on public property.
Right.
That would be, kind of the limitation of the grant. If there's ash trees in someone's backyard, they're probably not going to qualify for the removal grant.
Right. Well, let's say you've got, how tall do these son of a guns go?
Those are probably 40 foot tall.
Okay, so
They're
you've got
probably 8 or 10 foot or 10 inches in diameter.
Right, so they can get taller than 40 feet, obviously. These aren't that big. These got some bigger ones over here.
Oh yes, there's some quite large ash trees, some that are over 3 feet in diameter.
Right.
And for the local towns and village to remove these trees is quite expensive. A large tree like that on a one-off basis would cost upwards of $3,000 to remove. So the grant funding is going to come in very helpful to the local towns and communities to help cover the cost of this removal.
Yeah, and obviously I see immediately here at least 6 that are marked. If someone were to remove 6 individual trees that were on different areas, it'd be more expensive than coming here and grabbing 6 trees in one trip.
And the point of the grant is that we're batching the trees together, and we're counting and identifying and locating these trees and marking them, so that we can put them all together in a big package deal that we can put out to bid for a contractor to remove several hundred trees, under one contract. That should reduce the price per tree considerably.
Okay, I looked at an email trail, and a lady from the DEC contacted me in January 8th last year, 2024, saying that Mayor McFetrich here in the village of Champlain had asked about the removal of trees, so she contacted me. Then I immediately forwarded that to Rob Timmons, who's our Clinton County legislator on liaison to the Soil and Water Conservation Board, and he immediately forwarded it to you, and you got right back to us.
Lucky me.
Yeah. And so I can do that.
So we scrambled to put something together. I met with the town and the village leaders and kind of got their support. We put together a proposal. We had a technician out, doing an initial survey of ash trees just to get some basic numbers on what there was to remove. We were initially awarded a smaller sum of funding, but the state told us they had additional funds, and so we revised our request, and it was almost doubled to a total grant funding of $460,000. It applies pretty much to the towns of Champlain, moors in Altona with a sliver of the city of Plattsburgh on the north end of the city that we're working with them as well. It's for environmental justice areas. It was an urban forestry grant funded by the Inflation Reduction Act funding, from several years ago through the U.S. Forest Service. So it's kind of a convoluted way that the funding has got to us, but it's almost here.
Almost.
Correct.
Yeah, and the town of Champlain includes the two villages, Champlain and Rouse's Point.
Yes, yep.
So that's the footprint of what this grant is going to cover. So if you live in one of the areas not covered by that, it's
town of Shazy, unfortunately, has a lot of dying ash trees, and they're just not part of the area that's eligible.
right. So this is something that hopefully will be starting to mitigate this year. There's no guarantee on that. Sometimes
No
government
guarantee, but
paperwork
but
takes a
things are
long
moving
time.
along. It's pending review by the DEC, and then we should have a contract very shortly.
Okay, I'm going to take a step closer in a few seconds here to take a look at the leaves and the bark so that people can, and I know you've got the brochures and stuff available that people can help identify so they don't look at a willow that's dying and say,
Right.
hey, come down here, and then you're wasting your time going down and inspecting it.
So one of the most distinctive things that you can identify a dying or affected ash tree is the bark, the blonding of the bark. It's from the woodpeckers trying to find the larvae under the bark. So you'll see how the bark gets stripped off and it's very yellow. That's called blonding, and that's a sign that the tree is already infected and likely not going to survive. Otherwise, ash trees have a very distinctive vertical, ridged bark that most people, can identify, different from, say, a maple tree.
Okay, I'll zoom in on
And
this one over here. And you can
ash
see-
trees don't normally naturally have a big X on them, but this one
Yeah,
does
right,
because
yeah.
it's been marked and numbered.
right.
They also have what's called opposite branching. So certain varieties of tree have opposite branching, where the branches come out opposite each other on the limbs, and ash and maple are one of those, two of the three species of trees that do that, and these are quite a bit different than maples. Maples are pretty identifiable. So.
Yeah, especially by the maple leaf.
And the ash tree has a leaf that's it has a stem with many leaves coming off of it, like that. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
a-
distinctive. It's a little bit more different than hickory trees. Hickories have only like 3 to 5 leaves, and these have got a longer string of leaves sometimes.
Yeah, the shape of the leaf itself is reminiscent a little bit of the elm leaves.
But they're smooth.
But they're not
And
said a
you can
little
see-
bit, yeah.
And you can see here how these branches come off in an opposite fashion. So if you look up the tree, you'll see they have a very stubby branch system, and it comes off. The branches are normally sprouting from the trunk in opposite directions. Now you can also see on this tree where the woodpeckers have blonded off the bark, and you could probably see right there is an exit hole from an emerald ash borer. It's got a D-shaped hole, so it's flat on the bottom and round on the top because that's the shape of the beetle, and there's an exit hole there, an exit hole there. So this tree has had emerald ash borers for quite a while. They've been actually hatching and emerging from the tree. It could be this year, it could have been last year, but that's a distinctive sign that you have emerald ash borer. A little flat bottom and round top.
Yeah, so
We had some samples of ash that we cut down this winter and brought in the office, and just as a show and tell pieces. And this spring in the office, we found emerald ash borers emerging from this piece of wood that had been cut down in our office, and we kept those ash borers just for demonstration purposes.
are they still alive?
No, we put them in alcohol to preserve them. But,
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they ash borer beetle is an invasive wood borer. Originated from Asia. They think it came in wood packing materials like crates and boxes from Asia, China, those types of places. I don't know. Sorry. We have actually seen this spring, we've actually found some emerald ash borers just sitting on a leaf. They don't eat a lot. Their main goal in life is to is to hatch, find a tree, lay an egg, and they don't really affect the leaves of the tree. It's the underneath the bark that kills the tree. So underneath the bark, they lay their eggs, they hatch, they burrow in under the bark, and then they girdle the tree by eating the inner bark underneath the tree. So that's what the larvae are doing. The larvae are killing the tree. The woodpeckers are trying to get the larvae, but not until usually winter or winter time is when they do most of their blonding. And so they have already done most of the damage underneath the bark. And I have a sample of a tree that shows what happens underneath the bark. They have just tunneled their way around the whole tree, ceasing the transport of nutrients up to the top of the tree, and then killing the tree.
Right. No bark, no tree.
Right.
You cut a circle all around the tree, you cut the bark off, it's dead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can tell that's starting to happen when you see things like this. This is called epicormic sprouting. So why is there new branches sprouting from the bottom of a tree? It's because this part of the tree is not dead yet, but that part is getting killed. So the tree tries to survive by putting out sprouts from the side of its trunk. And so that's another sign that your tree is probably infected. And at this point, if most trees aren't, they're going to be. Unfortunately, the emerald ash borer is just pretty much spread out throughout Clinton County.
Do they have wings? How do they?
They have wings. So the ash borers only fly a short distance, to find another tree to lay on, their eggs on. So they might only go a half a mile. However, they can be transported in firewood. And that's initially where they think most of the transport happen, because you can cut a piece of tree down that has larvae under the bark, and you can move it 50 miles, and it hatches and infects a local ash tree, and all of a sudden you have a new infestation.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to make firewood to sell, they say, hey, this tree's dying, I'll cut it, and
exactly,
we'll make firewood out of it,
right,
and make some money off of it.
And so New York State and a lot of states have had quarantines on moving firewood, and that probably did slow the transport of ash borers, across the state. But at this point, it's pretty much lost cause. We've trapped it in just about every town in Clinton County. We started a trapping program 5-6 years ago, and we caught the first Admiral ash borer beetle in Clinton County back in the early 20s, I think, at least 5 years ago, and we've been monitoring its spread ever since, and it has spread very rapidly. Yeah. and it takes about 2 to 4 years for the ash tree to be killed by the ash borer. So once you get an initial infestation, when the beetles hatch, they don't all fly to find a different tree. A lot of them just lay their eggs on the same tree, and so that tree continues to be infected year after year until it's dead.
Right. So what do you say, since the 20s?
Well,
I'm in a different century now.
It might have been. Well, it might have been.
The 1920s.
We might have started back in. I was trying to find out when we started trapping. I know we caught it before 2022, but it might have been back in 2018 or 2019 that we've caught our first one. But
yeah, but I'm so old that when people talk about the 20s,
exactly.
I'm thinking the 1920s.
Well, we're still in the 20s. So.
I know. These are the 2020s.
Correct. And so we suspect that it came from the north, because obviously Champlain, Rouse's Point are the hardest hit. So they have had emerald ash borer in Quebec for quite a while, and it's been creeping both eastward and southward. Western New York has been pretty hard hit. Most of their ash trees are gone now.
Okay, so we'll be looking at some literature again as we get further here, but I got to ask the question. It sounds to me like the ash tree is doomed.
Pretty much. I mean, so the ash borers don't affect young ash trees, so there might be a young sprout, over on the riverbank. That might be an ash tree, and that will be unaffected. But the ash borers don't affect every tree all at the same time. So you might have one tree that's unaffected, but a couple years later it's going to be infected, and that the ash borers aren't going to disappear. There will be some young trees that aren't affected. They generally need to have the bark that you see, the kind of the rough, typical bark before the tree gets infected. So if they're a 2 or 3 inch tree, it's probably not going to affect that tree, but once it gets up to 4 to 6 inches, like those trees over there are a little bit bigger than that, but that if they're that's the point. They'll get infected, and it'll just keep on going. They are looking for resistant ash trees, and so if somebody has a tree that has been surrounded by other trees that have been killed by ash borer and it hasn't been killed, the state did have a program for collecting seeds from those trees, just to kind of have a bank of potentially resistant ash trees, just to plant in the future.
Yeah, those things happen.
It could be. I mean, there is, because the ash borer came from Asia, there's no native pest, or there's no native enemy of the ash borer. They have been introducing some parasitic wasps just to try that out to see if it works, and I'm not sure the latest results of that. But
so what's going to happen after the ash trees are gone? What are the ash borer going to do?
Well, the ash borer, they're probably going to either die off or become less, but I don't think they're going to disappear totally, because there's always going to be some ash trees. Just like nowadays we still have elm trees, even though Dutch elm disease killed 99% of the elms, you still have a few elm trees around, but inevitably they succumb to Dutch elm disease. So I think the same thing will probably happen with the emerald ash borer and ash trees. Okay. Unless they find something that will naturally take care of a pest that takes care of the emerald ash borer, in which case maybe it'll reach a but in the meantime the damage has been done. Millions of ash trees.
There's no indication that they'll suddenly start liking maple trees.
No, they haven't seen that yet. Okay. So it's pretty much specific to ash trees. The bark, the scent of the tree. The traps that we have a special pheromone that draws them to it. I think it's the ash tree is what it is.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this now. I'm going to ask you this again. If somebody feels they qualify, what should they do?
Well, so they can contact the Clinton County Soil and Water Office. We have a website. We have a Facebook page to get a hold of us. We have a technician who's been basically doing roadside surveys, working with the towns and the villages to identify trees that are a hazard to the public along public roadways. If your tree is an ash tree and it's within the right-of-way, whether it's dead, dying, or perfectly fine, it would be eligible for removal. If you have a tree that's healthy, there are treatment options. You could treat it with a pesticide to prevent it from being infected, but it can be expensive. It can be hard to get somebody to do that. Certain pesticides require a licensed applicator. So there's not a lot of options.
Okay. All right. So what else would you like to say right now before we go look at some extra material you brought?
Well, I'm trying to think. I'm rarely at a loss for words.
Rarely at a loss, but we appreciate how quickly you jumped on this. So when we contacted you a year ago in January,
and that's way the soil and water conservation districts. Every county has a conservation district, and it's not just soil and water; it's natural resources that we're trying to protect and conserve. And when the county has a need for our services, that's what we're here for. And we provide technical assistance, grant writing, things like that to both landowners, farmers, and our local communities. So we're glad to help.
Yeah. In addition to your website being online, people can look up, emerald ash borer and spell borer right, B-O-R-E-R.
Correct. Yeah. So there's a emeraldashborer.info, I think, is the website. That's like a nationwide emerald ash borer. The DEC has some fact sheets and some web pages on it. So the New York DEC. If you just search up, EAB in related to that, or the full word is probably better, but you'll find a lot of good information. You want to get your information from sites that are either government or educational, like if it's a .edu at the end, you'll get some good research-based information.
Not somebody trying to sell you something.
Correct.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose your sources. But they also have pictures and so on of what an ash tree looks like, so you can know what your.
And so, when people think of ash trees, these are probably white ash, but there's black ash, green ash, and white ash. Those are all susceptible. There's another tree called mountain ash, which is not a true ash tree and therefore is not susceptible to the emerald ash borer.
Okay.
And as of yet, they have not found any other trees being affected by this particular beetle.
All right. Do not be alarmed. Did you see my hand next to these? This is not the size, but we did want to show you what they look like.
All right, so there's a
And
little
Pete
jar.
has a jar of them here. I'm not sure.
And that's the actual size of the emerald ash borers.
So they're very tiny, like a skinny housefly.
Mm-hmm. They've got
Skinny housefly, but
a bright green, shiny emerald wings, and then they have kind of a reddish bronze underbelly.
Yeah.
They're very distinctive and very easy to tell from other types of borers. There's more borers than emerald ash borers out there, but
so if any of those end up in your house, don't catch and release.
right.
Catch and flush.
Correct. You know, I mean, we capture them, and then we capture them, but we put them in alcohol so that we can take them back to the office to identify, and then we dispose of them later.
Right.
But they are very pretty, just very destructive. at
Very
the same
destructive.
time.
Okay, because of the wind, we'll let you put that paper away here.
And I'll get out of the shadow. So we've got a couple samples. This is the same tree. This is one side of the tree. This is the other side. So this is what an ash tree looks like on the right. Naturally, it's got that nice brown, gray, furrowed bark. On the left-hand piece of wood is a piece that's been blonded by woodpeckers trying to get the larvae out from under the bark.
And there's a hole there.
And there's a couple exit holes that are visible. There's one right here, one over here, one there. And those ash borers actually emerged in our office this spring after we brought this piece of wood into the office last winter. So they normally hatch in the spring, late spring, early summer, about the same time that the locust trees blossom. So when locust trees are starting to blossom, we put up our traps around the county to monitor where they exist. You know, and there's not very many places that we haven't trapped the ash borers yet, so they pretty much have spread across all of Clinton County.
Okay, so once they get under that bark, this is a little maze they make here.
This is what they're doing. The larvae is creating, tunnels, tunneling under the bark and essentially girdling the tree. So it cuts off the flow of nutrients up and down the trunk and eventually kills the tree. So the inner part of the tree isn't really alive. It's just inside the bark that carries all the nutrients and liquids up and down.
Now you say exit holes. Now there has to be an entrance hole for the...
So the entrance hole is just a tiny little pinprick of a hole that the beetle lays. So the beetle lays its eggs on the surface, and then whatever hatches from that egg immediately burrows onto the bark. So I don't know that there's any distinctive entrance holes. I mean, there is some tiny little holes, but I'm not sure if that would be an entrance hole or not. Nobody has ever pointed out an entrance hole to me. But on the wood over here, you can also see the exit holes. There's an exit hole right there.
Right.
So they get a little bit deeper than where those burrows are. They get into the soft part of the underside of the bark on the outer part of the phloem of the tree.
Okay, so I know you have information.
Mm-hmm.
I just said on Facebook, I shared one of those, and immediately a fellow from down the road from me contacted me and said,
so
"Hey."
as part of the grant, outreach and education of about the emerald ash borer and about our program as part of the grant. We have been surveying the roadsides mainly in the town of Champlain. We're starting to branch out into the town of Moores now, but we've done the villages, both Champlain and Rouse's Point. We've compiled several hundred trees that are eligible for the program. We're plugging it into our estimates of what it's going to cost, so far. So we haven't spent all our money yet. We're hoping to have enough to take as many trees as possible out.
So have you internally got a priority list though, in case your demand meets the funding?
Exceeds the funding? We haven't determined that yet. So, I mean, we know trees that are a definite priority, that ones that would be an immediate public hazard right next to the road, near a park. Other trees that might be less of a hazard might be out in the country more, but they might be a roadside tree, but next to a farm field that may not be an immediate public hazard. But
yeah, well, you could have a 50-foot tree
mm-hmm.
that's 30 feet from the road
Right.
and beyond
Right.
the right of
So
way. But
some
if
of
it
that
fell,
will have to be, we'll have to let the, we haven't yet, so there will be some technical assistance from the DEC. There's like an urban forestry group, and then we should have an urban forester that would help us maybe determine that risk factor. Because yeah, there could be a massive tree that's just outside the right of way that still would be a public hazard, and
right.
we don't want to rule those out, but we can't rule them in until we get some additional advice. Because technically, it has to be on public property or within the right of way. It can't be along a state road unless it's in the village. So Route 9 or Route 22 trees would not be eligible unless they're in the villages on, like a street. That Route 9 or Route 22 would be going through the village of, and 9B and
yeah.
things like that.
What, does it have to be an incorporated village? You mentioned Route 22.
No.
Moores used to be incorporated. Now it's not a village anymore. It's
Yeah.
a small V village.
That's a tough one. That's another one where we would have to get some guidance from the DEC forester, because if the state is maintaining the road, then the state is responsible for the trees. In the village, if the village is maintaining and plowing and the trees are along a village sidewalk next to the state road, then they're an eligible tree.
Okay.
So yeah, there is some nuances,
Yeah.
and there are some places where we may have to ask for other guidance, and also that we may even have to engage say an arborist to give us a risk assessment of a certain tree, just to say,
Yeah.
can we justify taking this tree out,
Right.
even though it's not next to within the right of way.
Right, but it's so big that it
And-
would fall into the.
And we also are anticipating that trees that would be along the roadsides and a landowner wants to keep the firewood, we would also have an option for that as part of the grant, for the removal contract. So if a landowner says that there's a 30-foot tree and it's got a lot of firewood, I want to keep it, then the tree service would leave the tree in along outside of the right of way on the property owner's land.
Just don't put that firewood for sale.
Well, right. I mean, it can be sold within 50 miles. I mean,
Right.
so the whole county is pretty much infected with the EAB. So you could sell your firewood within the county because you're not transporting it
Right, but
very
you don't
far.
know where that person's gonna.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there still is a quarantine, that they on the books. I don't think there's, they haven't really got much EAB down in Essex County, so I wouldn't tell people to take it to Essex County. But
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
Do not
Just-
take this to Essex
right.
County.
We
Do not
wanna
take
keep
this to
our-
Vermont.
keep our problem home. And there's plenty of, it's great firewood. After the tree is dead, it's it's almost ready to burn. It
Yeah, it's
probably is
dry.
ready to
It's
burn
dried
once
out,
the
yeah.
tree has been dying down. But we don't want to move it any further
Right.
than it already is.
Right, so for home use only.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So again, you can find those brochures. You can find all kinds of things at the Clinton County Soil and Water Conservation website.
Yep, and we've also we have dropped some of the brochures off at the local town offices, the village, village of Champlain, I think the village of Rouse's Point, and the town of Champlain, and the town of Moores have some of our brochures and information about the program, and Emerald Ash Borer, at the village offices.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming down here on this bright sunny morning, Pete.
Not a problem. It's just getting warm.
Yeah, just going to get uncomfortable very shortly.
Exactly.
Is there anything else though that I haven't been smart enough to ask about that you thought was?
I don't know. So in the villages, we do have the option of replanting trees. So if it's in a residential area where we've taken a tree out from next to a sidewalk or a yard, then there will be a tree planting program attached to this. We'll be able to offer, tree saplings to be replanted. Whether the district plants them or the landowner does, we haven't worked that out yet. But we have budgeted for replanting of some trees.
Okay, so I assume there won't be ash.
No, so there'll be, in the village of Champlain, they have a village tree board,
Uh-huh.
and they're going to be, I'm sure, involved in recommending what kind of tree species to replant. It'll probably won't be like maples and oaks, because in villages they got a lot of power lines and just the issues of having
Right.
huge trees. So it'll probably be smaller trees, more nice shade trees that fit the village and fit the infrastructure so that they don't overwhelm. You know, you get a 100-foot oak tree that falls over and
Yeah.
smashes a house, things
Right.
like that. So,
It may not be our problem,
and,
but 20
right.
years from now, because
That's
somebody else's problem.
You know, advanced planning is important.
Right, yeah. And also plant a tree that's not too close to a stop sign. I know several locations in the area where, unless you did, if you didn't know there was a stop sign there, you wouldn't know it till you got there because
Right.
somebody planted a tree in front of it.
Or, I mean, a lot of times trees grow up and you don't realize how big they're going to be or how. I mean, there's a blue spruce over there that I'm sure was just a small little Christmas tree at one time, and now it's got a 20-foot, you know, round base. And if it was planted in too close to the sidewalk or too close to a
Right.
corner, it could be an obstruction to and a safety hazard.
Right. Plant them in the right spot. Okay. Well, again, we thank you, Pete, for taking your time to doing this. We also thank you for jumping on this. When we first brought it up to you through Rob Timmons back in January of last year.
Right.
You've been the leader on this, and we appreciate that.
I appreciate that you contacted us and you know, had that we can help.
Okay, and just so she gets credit, you got the lady in your office that's working
Yeah,
on
our
this?
technician is Brittany Bayshaw. She's the one that's out marking trees, and we have a computer app that we map every tree. So every tree is tagged with a number, marked with an X for removal. It's put into a program called Survey 123 on a smartphone, where it gets put onto a map. So when we do put out the trees for removal, we have the location and identification number of every tree to be removed.
Okay, and one final thing, I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel, and 10 years from now, people will be watching this, and obviously this program will be done, and it won't be, but for the ones who watch it 6 months from now, how long do you think this
So
would?
the contract is
apply?
until 2027. We hope to start tree removals this fall or winter. So we'll have time for another round. You know, if we haven't identified and removed all the trees on this first, you know, go around, we should still be doing it for another year or two, at least marking and identifying trees, because we may not get every one. I mean,
Right.
we may miss some. It's, you know,
and once people see it, and they say, "Hey, I got one of those."
even though it's limited to these 3 towns,
Yeah.
there's a lot of ash trees out there, and they're not all dying, so some of them are harder to identify than others.
So through 2026, then you think people could contact you?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And just, you know, contact our office. You know, a lot of times we can do a quick Google Street View and find out, like, oh yeah, there's a
Right,
tree
yeah,
and we
right.
must have missed it, you know. But otherwise, we'll put a list together, and when the technician's up in the area, she'll go and check every tree and determine whether it's eligible or not.
All right, very good. Thanks, Peter.
All right, thanks,
right.
Calvin.
All right, we're talking with Pete Hager from the Clinton County Soil and Water Conservation District here in Billero Park, beautiful downtown Champlain. Before leaving the village, I stopped at the village office to pick up the brochure that Soil and Water Conservation has available there. I believe these are also available in Rouse's Point and at the Champlain Town Garage, Town Office, I should say. Brochure has a lot of pertinent information and tells you where to go to get more information. Clinton County SWCD.org. Phone 518-561-4616. The DEC phone number. So these brochures, if you feel you need more information in front of you, are available at the various towns and villages. Thank you.